Why do you have two posters of The Little Mermaid and the Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse?
This is not what you guys might think.
I don't know what
you might be grabbing some stuff from this and thinking, what is he doing?
What did they do on the opening weekend? What was their...
Right.
What's happening?
Not. I want to talk a little bit about...
Black-led films?
No, and you might think that.
You said it's not what you think.
I said it's not.
Well, that's not what I was thinking, so I went with the not
But that's
thinking.
the way it looked like it could be. These are two films that just came out that are black-led films. No, this is actually... I want to kind of dive into the question. Why are the runtimes so long? And we've talked about this a little bit outside the podcast, but I want to look. I pulled up an article where they talk about it a little bit, but I kind of want to hear you guys' perspective.
Before we go to the article?
No, let's go ahead and go to the article, because these are two movies, The Little Mermaid and the Spider-Verse. Now, the first Spider-Verse, Into the Spider-Verse, was about 150 minutes.
Whoa.
Okay.
2 hours.
Almost 150 minutes. This new one is 220.
Okay.
That's a big jump.
That's a big jump. That's a real big jump.
And it's a cartoon.
Okay.
Little Mermaid, which is live action.
Original.
215. The original one is 90 minutes.
I've not read this article. I don't know what direction you're taking this.
It's actually a little less than 90 minutes.
But right off the bat, something
less than 90
that is that's popping in my brain is most movies that are coming out, they are pushing for like theater stuff of they want people back in theaters. They're trying to get people back in theaters.
And we're going to talk about that because that's significant. That's an important part.
The first thing I can think of without any direction is maybe they think longer run times will give somebody more bang for their buck of paying the movie ticket price, maybe?
You're hitting on all the stuff.
Yeah.
So initially, the first thing you're going to think of, why are movies so long nowadays? Well, we've switched from analog to digital.
So it's easy. It's easy to make a really long movie.
I was looking at Oppenheimer, and it's like, oh, yeah, Oppenheimer has how many miles of actual film?
Hundreds of miles.
That you have to bring. You have to actually bring.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right?
And like a humongous camera.
And
a roll that cost $30,000 for 2 minutes of footage.
Yeah.
And now this article, scroll down, because they go on forever being like, long movies have been around forever. But that's not.
But with intermissions.
But that's not what. Get past all. There's a specific paragraph, and I probably should have done this myself. Keep going.
All right. Oh, look, it's Robert Pattinson.
Robbie Pat.
Because that was another long movie.
Yeah, but that deserved to be long.
Kind of sit here for a second.
Okay.
So the first thing we know is we've switched from, for the most part, analog to digital, but we've also had a lot of long films in the past couple of years. Avengers Endgame, I think, was a big one. It was like one of the first superhero movies that was like 3 hours long.
And then you got Avatar.
And we've had a lot of and Multiverse of Madness and all these movies that are super long. And I think people are like, oh, well, I think it's less personally. I think it's less about analog to digital, less about how long to keep people in the movies, and more about trends.
Okay.
People look at these movies that are making a ton of money, Endgame, Chris Nolan movies, and they're thinking, people want these long movies.
Well, that's built on reputation. Not built on
exactly
runtime.
Yeah.
But we know how Hollywood works. They look at something, they're like, oh my gosh, superheroes are working.
Let's do superhero.
And I don't think it's much of a stretch to think long run times is what people want. So let's give it to them. The only issue is they're not going to be making as much money. You're right. Tickets are higher. And perhaps they're thinking more bang for your buck. But also, with a 90-minute movie, you get more screenings.
Right.
You get much
more money.
And that's how people used to make their money.
How long was Super Mario Bros? 90 minutes?
Yeah.
Right around there?
Yeah. It was a short movie.
What is it, coming in like 4th highest grossing animated film of all time?
Yeah.
Scroll down,
It felt
because
good.
this isn't the paragraph I was looking for.
Okay.
I think it's right here.
Okay.
Back up.
right here.
Yeah, right around here.
Okay, so go ahead and read whichever you're looking at.
So it says for a while, 91 minutes was the ideal length. It fit nicely in a 2-hour block on cable with commercials. So that's the other thing.
It's not running on TV. No.
We're not running on TV. We don't have commercials.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. There was a whole thing about this in the show The Offer about the runtime. What was their argument in that? Remember, there was a whole scene where they were talking about the time, and
There's always a runtime issue when it comes to like these older stuff because of TV related issues. So, Coppola, was it Coppola? He's the author, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Who was the director?
Francis
Remind me.
Ford Coppola.
Who was the director? Remind me of his name. I'm blanking on his name.
No. Yeah, it was Coppola.
Coppola's the director.
He's the
Yeah.
director.
yeah.
Puzo was the
Puzo.
was the author.
Writer. Yeah.
So Coppola was very much fighting for the artistic expression and said that this story deserves a longer script and a longer film. That's why it was longer. But as you saw from The Offer, they had to fight hard for that. But go ahead and continue what you're saying.
John Turteltaub says you sign it and then you ignore it. He's the director of National Treasure and The Meg. And then studios don't want to pull the contract card because it could be seen as interfering with the creative process, but they prefer shorter films. So we know that the studios want those shorter films because run times in theaters
More
and on
screenings.
and more commercials on cable. But we've seen
less.
I think Hollywood has allowed people to be like, well, let's not touch their creative vision. They've got something going on. Taika Waititi's got something going on. So and so's got something.
Hold up.
At
what point do they decide let's not mess with them or let's mess with them? Like, because there's not consistency there.
I think that's the problem. That there's not consistency. They're saying if we give them the longer runtime, we can interfere as much as we want, and they still get their creative vision.
So we can interject
everything's
our
not
BS.
doesn't fit into a mold of
No.
this film might work better long, and this one's definitely going to be better short.
But I do think if you were to compare something like Mario to Oppenheimer, which one of those would you say
Oppenheimer.
works better as a long movie?
Yeah.
Oppenheimer.
And so there's always been longer movies.
Yes.
I mean, going back to Gone with the Wind, it was a long movie.
Gone with Them is like
Yeah,
4
but
hours
there's
long.
an intermission on
they
that.
reference Ben-Hur. People like longer movies.
It needs to be appropriate for the story.
It needs to be appropriate.
So why did they make Little Mermaid freaking 2+ hours?
Exactly, that's the question. Little Mermaid and Spider-Verse, I think, are the biggest ones right now that we're looking at.
I also think the reason why people are talking about this too is
Scroll down.
there's people are losing interest, and I think that's our attention span of us as humans, and especially with shorts, our attention span is not there anymore.
And think
we
about
can't
kids.
sit through. Oh, when I say we, I just mean loosely the world can't sit through a 2.5-hour movie because we couldn't do that back
Because
in the
of bladder
day.
size.
Yeah, back
we
in
haven't
the
evolved
day-
with larger bladders.
Like plays and stuff that had intermissions, they would go 2 hours intermission, 2 hours.
Yeah.
Like a play.
That's still the Broadway format.
Yeah.
I've seen 3 Broadway shows. It's always 2 hours intermission, 2 hours. That's always
Yeah.
it.
And
It's
then-
still like that.
And then you're right, kids as well have really short attention spans. So 90 minutes is great for a kid. But it seems like all of the kids' movies are 2 hours long.
Yeah.
2 hours and 20 minutes on Spider-Verse.
Okay, so this actually goes to prove maybe Spider-Verse is going to be enjoyed by more older audiences
But that
and
shouldn't
younger
be the
audiences
case.
alike. But everyone's always saying The Little Mermaid is for the kids.
Mm-hmm.
Not if you make it 2 hours long.
If you make it 2 hours.
You're making it for people that have
kids.
nostalgia around The Little Mermaid.
So they're lying.
Or-
So they're lying to us because it's not for the kids. So every problem
It's
they
for
have,
kids.
they say, stop. It's for the kids.
Mm-hmm.
You're being weird.
Yeah.
But if you just look at the evidence, it's clearly not for the kids.
Historically, longer movies are
not for kids.
Are for adults because we have the attention span for it. So
Miss Rachel knows that kids only have a 40-minute attention span.
right. And with those kinds of bright colors and everything. You're right. The Little Mermaid is too long for what they're advertising. Yeah, it's for kids. Why are you criticizing it? It's for kids.
It's for them to have a new kind of Little Mermaid. The next,
it's for
original
Disney
art.
adults. It's for Disney adults to watch The Little Mermaid.
And those are all the people that were commenting on our hate video, right? And it wasn't a general hate.
So
video.
what do you guys think the future is?
I think once they iron out that these things don't make money, movies that are for kids need to go back to being for kids. That was runtime. That's
Mario. You think Mario is proof of that?
Yes.
100%. And movies that are for adults, especially that tackle complex topics like Oppenheimer and the team creating the atomic bomb, that needs time to cook. Let them cook. Or don't let them cook if they don't need it.
What about action movies like John Wick and Mission Impossible? Those are getting close to 3 hours.
If I'm being honest,
that's crazy.
I think those should be capped at 2 hours.
Yeah, I think so too.
Because they push it just a little too far, and it just feels a little too long for what it is. That also includes the Fast and Furious. Like, if you're doing action for awesome's sake, right? And that's what these things are. They're action for awesomeness. And that's a genre. It works. It's fun. It's supposed to just be fun because it's awesome. Now, in that genre, do we want nonstop action and awesome for 3 hours straight? Not necessarily, because at some point you just become dull.
How long was Dungeons & Dragons? 2 hours?
I don't remember.
Yeah, around
sure.
2 hours.
It felt like 2 hours, but that felt like the right amount of time with the right amount of action.
Right.
It never felt like it was going too slow. It had a lot of really fun action scenes, and then it ended at kind of 2 hours.
What are the days where, what we did with Lord of the Rings, where you give a 2 hour cut, you give like a 2 hour 20-minute cut, and then you give for the super fans that want
a longer one,
give us the 3 hour cut.
DVD.
It died with DVD.
It died with DVD.
Yeah, because they can.
But
have
they
someone
put
buy
the
two
Snyder cut on the streamer.
Because people asked for it. Because they wanted what Zack Snyder had to offer. They didn't want what Joss Whedon created.
Peacock releases, like for Megan, they had the theatrical version, and then they had the unrated version.
They're kind of still doing it.
Which means it wasn't terribly more violent. It's just, it's not the version that was viewed and given a rating, right?
I just think it's not as prevalent. It's not as prevalent. It's more like, well, why don't we just show the 2 hour cut rather than make two movies? And because there's no incentive for people to go out and buy a Blu-ray DVD over going and watching the whole movie on streaming.
Well, okay, so when are streamers going to figure out that if people want a package deal? And this is something where the boomie's gonna come in, bro.
Yeah,
the boomie's gonna roll up because when you pay for a title,
gonna change the world.
You now get podcasts with actors that are under that title. You get behind the scenes. You get extended cuts because you paid for a title for that month, or you subscribe to a title, not the whole library. Now you get the collection that's under that title. That's what I'm saying, like a DVD menu. So the boomie. So the boomie's the future. I'm saying
at the Hateful Eight, Quentin Tarantino. So he made an extended version, and Netflix has it on there. At least they did. Well, when I watched it, they released it. Quentin is known for his chapters. He'll do like chapter 1, chapter 2, and type thing. And he did a 4-chapter movie, and so Netflix put it out as almost a 4-episode thing at an hour a piece.
The theatrical version was much shorter, and it felt more chaotic, and it also felt too long.
The original?
The theatrical, yeah.
Oh,
it felt too long. It felt too chaotic. Whereas you go and watch it on Netflix, it's episodic.
Yeah.
You feel like you didn't just watch a 4-hour movie. You watched 4 episodes of an interesting story.
right.
Yeah.
I think long form should be long form. It should be episodic. And I think movies should be around 2 hours. 90 minutes for kids, 2 hours for action, and then the
3 minutes for
Chris
Nolan and Matt Reeves and Denis Villeneuve.
Yeah,
they get the 3 hours.
They can do 3-hour movies.
Do you think the hour-long episode type thing of a movie is just a streaming version of, you know, let me take this VHS out, put it in. I got to take the second part 2 VHS copy out.
And
you'd buy those VHS with two.
I just think
double slot.
I think Hollywood is in such a weird flux right now. We've got writer strikes going on. Pretty soon there's going to be, actually, probably by the time this comes out, there's going to be an actor's strike.
Woo.
Everything's going to shut down.
That's going to get real spicy.
We have run times that are going. Disney's.
I'm ready to step up.
And for some reason,
play the next Superman.
The YouTube comment section.
No, I don't want Superman.
Are going to war for Disney.
Yeah,
like
it's
what?
Wild.
Why
What's
is
happening? Right
why is a bunch of no-faced YouTube commenters?
No-faced?
Yeah, no-face, which means they don't upload to their channel, right?
Oh.
They don't do creative content. They just go on and I don't know, just hate anyone who does a single critical
Comments
word of
aren't
Disney.
Creative.
Like why is that a thing?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know. If these are for kids, why are a bunch of adults in the comment section?
Again, just to finish up this segment, what do you guys think the future is?
I think what you said,
You
and
think
the
we
boom.
we return to form and
Do
stream-
2 copies?
Yeah.
No,
look,
no, not 2 copies.
2 new versions?
90 minutes, 2 hours.
yeah,
3
yeah.
hours.
No, I think kids content 40 to 90 minutes. That's it. Kids content's 40 to 90 minutes. I think. Hold on, let me finish this. Also, you're right. Action movies from 90 to 2 hours. That window, and then the people that are doing the high end stuff, and it's kind of based on directors, not really based on project, but based on directors. Then they get the 2 hour plus titles. And then as far as consumption, so we get extended cuts. So we get behind the scenes. And it's not just spread around on YouTube or random collections on Max or whatever. The Boomie's going to change it. At some point, someone's going to create it. Karina said we should definitely patent this idea because at some point this is going to happen. The Boomie's going to happen because when it happens,
but
you get a title and everything there because people loved it.
We don't have the tech know-how.
We can figure out a patent so that when someone creates it, we say, hey, we came up with this idea on this day. Here's the legal proof. And then they'd be like, well, dang it. I guess we got to give you money.
No, that feels cheap.
Well, if we get the patent and say you're not allowed to do it.
We came up with this idea, but we didn't create anything.
Okay, but here's the thing. Maybe down the road.
I would rather the idea get created by somebody.
But don't you want to
if I had
partner with someone
if
to
I
get
had
it
the
created?
if I had the means to help create it, then yeah. But if somebody else is in Wyoming is going to create it, I don't feel like I have.
Dude, why can't we create it?
I don't feel like I have like any right to their idea.
Well, what? But it's also our idea. So why don't we create it?
But if they have a
ourselves?
prototype, if they're actually doing something with it, it's their idea.
It's not really a prototype. The technology's already there. It's
It's
more
there.
about the deals you have to make with the streamers.
It's code. People are writing code. Yeah.
It's code and it's legal deal making. That's what it is. We can do that. Why not? Give ourselves 5 to 10 years. We'll have the means to do it. That's what I think.
Yeah.
We should patent the idea. And if you don't, I will. And I'll get all the money.
Patent it. I don't care.
All right.